Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jack Bridges. This is Chad Mason. What we're going to cover in this segment is how to initially fit your vest. You'll have to bear with it because we're going to do a lot of turning with Chad, and we're going to abuse his head a little bit and some biceps and things like that. It's going to be quite painful for Mr. Mason. But, and sorry about the dogs. When you get your vest in your nice neat box that Michelle packages up for you, it's going to look as if you have it on. And there are a few things that I'm going to point out later on in the video that when you get it, it doesn't necessarily mean those pieces need to stay there. You need to adjust those because we just put it together in a neat little package and send it to you. This initial vest fitting is very important. So I have to put on my spectacles because I can't see close up anymore. This is a 1/8 inch Allen wrench, and it comes with the vest. This is the tool holder for it, which we conveniently provide now instead of having to shove it in here like that. It's kind of rude. But initially you want to get your Allen wrench and you want to loosen these two bolts right here. And you don't have to back them way out, you just loosen them because I want to be able to move this. We'll loosen that, loosen that. And see how this moves now all over the place? These guys. There we go. All right. You don't need to worry about any of this stuff, or any of this stuff right now. Just those 2, 4, 6, 8 bolts. Get them loose. Now what I want to do is I want to step back. And you need somebody to help you with this because he's the operator. And if he's, lift your arm up. If he's messing around with all this stuff, the components of the vest are shifting. So if he tries to do this himself, when he puts his arm down, things move. So the operator just needs to stand there and have your assistant help you out with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step back and I'm looking this piece right here, the gray piece. Pretend it's your hand and I want to punch him in the solar plex. It needs to be sitting right where I would push it, or if I was going to hit him in the solar plex. And it looks good, but it's off kilter a bit. It's over to the right. So I'm simply going to grab that a little bit and I'm going to place it where I want it. Now, you don't want your vest, this piece, way up here. You don't want it way down here. And there are folks out there that try to get a vest and they want to wear the waist pad loose because they don't like being compressed or anything like that. And they want to wear it down here. And if you look at males, we don't have hips per se. So if you pass the point of no return, I call it, lower than the hip bones, there's nothing to stop the vest. So when you load it, it's simply pressing like this through your legs and putting all of the weight right here on your shoulders. And you're going to feel that, so you don't want to do that. You'll want to listen to this tutorial and put it where I tell you to put it. All right, so what I want to do is, if I want to compress the vest or if I want to extend the vest, it's done with these 3 bolts, which are accessed underneath this pad. So you'd have to take the vest off, pull this pad off, it's just Velcroed on there, loosen those 3 bolts, put it where you would like it, put the 3 bolts back. You don't need to put Loctite on there. What I would do is probably put a little bit of white lithium grease on the back side of the screw and then insert it, because if you want to move it later, it'll be easier to do so, and the grease will stop the salt in your perspiration from corroding underneath the head of the screw. And sometimes that happens, the screw locks up, you can't get it out, you have to send it in, I'll drill it out, and it's a mess. So I would do that. Now, what I want to look at is I want to see where his hip bones are at, because I want this pad on top of his hip bones, not on the side of his hip bones and not below it. See where his belt is? That's not where I want it. So his hip bones, where are your hip bones? Oh, there they are, right there. Are right here. See where his belt is? This is way too low. So I want the bottom of that vest to land right there where it's at. I got lucky on that one. So this is looking pretty good. So I want to center everything. And I'm going to spin Chad around. I'm going to open up his waist latch. And I'm going to tighten his waist pad a little bit. And then I'm going to secure it. And that's not tight enough for me. There we go. Now, I want it to be snug. I don't want him to, you know, get crushed. So you don't need to overdo this. And on a properly fitted vest, the waist pad will butt up against itself or have up to a 2-inch gap, like so. It can be this far apart and anywhere in between. Where you run into problems, if you lose weight or anything, you never ever want the pad to overlap the other pad, because that is going to create a pressure point at that spot. It happens to be on your lower spine, your lower back, and you're going to feel it. So if you get to this point, you need to call Pro and we will get you a new waist pad. You'll have to measure yourself again. Again, from about a 2-inch gap to closure, no overlap, and you do not want this because you have no support back there. All right, I'm going to buckle him back up. There we go. I'm going to attach his horizontal, let me scoot you around here, horizontal back straps, and that's good. There we go. I'm going to snug these up just a little bit. Actually, there we go. I want the Pro centered in the back, and that lets me know that the front is centered. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull down this flap right here. Now when you get your vest, they're just arbitrarily placed on there. So you have to adjust this. You can start with the right or you can start with the left. It does not matter. I'm going to start with the right. Now what I want to do with this, you see this moves all over the place. It's nice. I want to trace this pad through this muscle right here. I do not want it sitting on this bone right here. You can reach up and feel yours. And I don't want this edge riding on his skin here, because it will chafe you very quickly, especially on set when you're working. And there's a bone right here. I don't want it riding on that bone because that's going to create a pressure point. There is a muscle right there, and I want it to ride nice and smooth right over that muscle. Just like so. Now see, I can move this, and it's an angle deal as well. You don't just pull it over and call it good, because see that space? And it's pinching right there. You want to roll it onto that muscle. And see, this pad is in the way. So I have to move this pad. Like so. You see how this is centered and it's kind of crooked? It's fine. His body will tell you where to put the pad. I do the opposite side. Now this one doesn't have as much padding engagement because you have a click lock assembly on there, but the same thing applies. And I always check for that bone. And there we go. Now see how crooked that is? That is perfectly fine. Some people, this is way over here. Some people, this is over here. Some people, it kind of lines up. But it's all dictated on that person's, the operator's muscle mass right there. So I'm going to close this up. I'm going to secure that. I'm going to turn him back around. Now what I'm looking for is I want to make sure it's not riding on his shoulder and it's not riding on this bone right here. I kind of like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock off these settings right here by simply turning that bolt, or these two bolts. Now you don't have to kill it, just get it good and tight. There we go. Now these won't move. As far as these guys go, some operators like them like this, horizontal. Most operators like them bent like that. The reason for that is it helps kick this edge out a little bit. But what it does do is if you are trying to pull this out, you open it up or install it, it can rub right here because you are at an angle. And that's perfectly fine. All it's going to do is it might scratch up the anodizing a little bit. It's cosmetic and it's going to happen no matter what you do. So what I like to do is I simply bottom those out. And then I snug up these two bolts. Snug up these two bolts. Now I'm going to adjust the sides here. Go ahead and put your arms down. You're fine. I'm looking at the ends of the pad and I want the distance between here and here to be approximately the same. You don't have to get out a measuring tape. I have seen operators' vests come in the shop and this one is way over here and this one is way back there. That is, your whole back piece is on crooked when you do that. So you want to ensure that you have approximately the same width on both sides. You do not have to get a tape measure out and measure it, okay? There we go. Now, on some of our larger folks, what you want to do when you're opening and closing these latches is this system is compressing you a little bit. You want to be careful that you don't get anything trapped between this point and this point, so you might have to push out of the way. And for our female operators out there, that's pretty important as well. Now I have about an even gap on both sides. He's nice and snug. His shoulders are initially set. This is in a good position as if I were going to hit him in the solar plex. I know that the waist pad is not below his hip bones. It's right where I wanted it to sit. And his waist pad, I think it needs to be a little bit tighter. Now you see Chad, he's already bottomed out on this vest. And it's because this vest is not made to fit Chad. This is just an arbitrary vest we threw together. And we don't have any waist pads in stock or made to fit Chad. But what I want is I want that a little bit tighter. So we measured Chad at 37.5. I'll bet you this pad is probably a 38, maybe a 39. And I want that to be a little bit tighter. So it's not going to happen today. But that is the initial fitting of a Pro vest. And what I want is if I can grab right here, I should be able to move Chad. But I shouldn't be able to move the vest on him. And see, I can drag him around. I can spin him. He's good. Make sure all this stuff's secure. And the last bit, secure those horizontal back straps. And that's going to cinch everything together. There we go. And that is the initial fitting for a Pro vest. And in a couple of weeks after wearing it, these components are going to start to compress and adhere to your body's natural posture and position. So in a couple of weeks, you'll want to readjust your shoulder straps and possibly play with these two a little bit to cant them in or out. But your waist pad should be good to go. Now, if you pack on weight in the wintertime, like this fella and myself, you could fluctuate 10, 15, and in Chad's case, 20, 25 pounds over the winter. If you do that and you're still working, guess what, folks? Remember that 2-inch gap we were talking about? That's going to allow you some waistline expansion. Now, the other part of that is if you are in the winter and you bought a vest, summer comes up, you start working in Southern California or in a very hot environment every day and you start shredding those pounds, okay? If that waist pad starts overlapping on the edges like so, you need to call Michelle. You need to order a new waist pad for your size. Some operators have a summer one, some operators have a winter one, some operators do not fluctuate. Actually, a lot do not fluctuate, but some do. And you don't need a new vest. It's simply a change of your waist pad. You just unvelcro it and you're done. You get the new one in the mail and you put it in. And that about covers the initial vest fitting.